Hello, my name's Katie and welcome to my shed. Oh, it's a roasty toasty one today, and it's beautiful and we mustn't moan, but I'm gonna. Last year we bought an AC unit, just a little portable one to go in the house, and we can't use it this year because of the cat. Shocker, because she will try and escape, but also the outside cat, the neighbour's cat, whoever's cat it is that likes to come and hang around our house, he will try to get in, so we can't use it. So it's really toasty in the house, and I'm probably going to moan about it for this video and probably the next one, because I think the heat wave is meant to be carrying on for a little while. I'm going to apologise now. Look, I'm in the same clothes that I've been wearing for the last two videos. Now that is because I finished up the last two videos today and then started a new one, and if I was so inclined and maybe had a bit more energy, I'd probably go inside and get changed and pretend it was a different day. But if you are not new here, you'll know I'm a very lazy toad, and I'm not going to do that. So apologies if you're offended that I'm recording 3 videos in one day. If you haven't been here before and you're new here, hello, my name's Katie, and I generally paint from my shed. Sometimes I go out and about and do it, but mostly it's in my shed. I am a part-time artist, and I also run art workshops at weekends and work full-time on my other job as well, so I like to keep myself busy. The reason I'm here today is I'm doing a series of videos for people who think they can't draw. And that's come from the fact that when we run our workshops, every workshop we come to, and in fact yesterday when I was at work and I was telling someone about my workshops, I get the same sentence so often. I get that I cannot draw, I can't even draw a stick man. And I think I used that quote last week, but it's still relevant because somebody said it to me yesterday. And I always go back to them and say, well, actually everyone can draw, and we talked about that on the last video in this series. I think I'm going to put those 2 quick ones in between, but yeah, I'll link the video onto this video because I'm not sure what the order is going to be, because I was planning on just doing 1 video a week, and then I've recorded 2 short little videos in between, so rather than waste them, I'll probably put them up and have 2 bonus videos. Lucky you. Anyway, so last time we talked about how people think they can't draw, and how that actually is not true, because everyone can draw. You might just not get the images that you want, or you might not feel confident in what you're doing, but there are ways to work around that. And what we're going to talk about today is cheating. So what we can do to make life easier for ourselves to get an image that we are happy with. And I don't think I can draw very well, and we talked about that last time, and that's why I went into printmaking and sculpture before I came back to doing painting and drawing, because it took me a while to come to terms with that. I'm not going to bore you with it, we talked about it last time. The techniques I'm going to show you now are some of the techniques that helped me gain my confidence with my own drawing. And I don't use them all the time, but I do use them sometimes. And I think there will be artists out there who never cheat. But equally, I think there's quite a lot that do cheat, probably just don't tell you that they're cheating. For various reasons, you know, credibility, they want to feel, want people to think that they are drawing it all from scratch, or maybe they just don't agree with cheating. Some people just think that cheating is bad. Yes, so I don't think cheating is bad, and I would actively encourage it, particularly whilst you're getting used to drawing, because if you've ever heard of the term muscle memory, if you've drawn something a few times, likelihood is when you come to draw it again, it will be easier for you. So for example, I'm going to show you some pictures. I'll insert them in a minute. In fact, I'll insert them now. So the first image that I was showing you took me, in fact I'm still not happy with it, but I've been painting it on and off for a few years and I've never quite got it how I want it. And it's a nice painting, I like it, it's just not quite there. The second one, in fact I've done blue tits a few times, you will have seen me do them. I used one of these techniques to get the shapes in correctly so that then I could relax and enjoy the painting process. So, you know, I still created the image, I just cheated a bit with the drawing, and that's what I'm going to show you how to do. So we've got 3 things I'm going to show you today, and they are all variations on the same theme. So we'll talk a little bit about them and then draw up some images using the different techniques, and hopefully you'll be able to see how easy they are, and you can do it with stuff that you've got at home, so you don't have to go out and spend loads of money if you don't want to. Okay, I have got a sketchbook, and yeah, we'll just use the back of this page for now. I have printed off an image that I know that I would not be able to draw very well. So I've printed off my devil cat, and the first thing we're going to do is do the traditional tracing method. So this is what you will have done at school when you were taught how to trace an image. So you can buy tracing paper dirt cheap. You can get packs of it, I think, in, you know, most of the pound shops around. A pack of 50 for about £1. Also, a lot of their paper is thin enough that you could trace with it anyway. And what I'm going to do is trace my image and transfer it. I'm going to put you on fast forward because I think most of you know how to do this. Okay, so I have traced out the main shapes. I taped it down because that paper was going to move all over the place. If I'd have been clever, I'd have lightened this image a little bit because I printed it out and it's quite dark, so it's quite hard to see the other colours. Right, so the next thing we do with this, can you remember, is you want to colour in the back with some pencil, and always use the soft pencil. So this is a 9B. It doesn't need to be that soft, but something's, I should do it on here. My table's so lumpy. We're just getting a print of the table, like brass rubbing. You want something soft enough that it's going to transfer. So I'm going to shade this in. You don't need to watch it all, but I'll shade it in and then we'll transfer it. Okay, and then flip it over and then trace your image out. If I'd have been clever, I'd have used a different colour because it's going to be quite hard to see my original drawing, but I'm sure I can manage. And you want to make sure when you're tracing it out that you use quite a hard pencil. So the soft one on the back to transfer, and then when you're drawing over you want something quite hard, or you could use a biro or something that's got a bit of pressure to it. Okay, let's do that. So it's as simple as that. Let us take this one off and look at the image. So it's quite pale, but we've got the basic shapes down, and then we'd be able to go in and to do a proper drawing. Okay, so that is very simple, and you can do it probably without buying anything. You could probably even use greaseproof paper or something like that, something that you can see through. If you wanted to buy something to make your life a little bit easier, if you were willing to buy something, there is a way that's slightly easier by removing 1 or 2 steps of that process. And that is by getting something like this. So this one's called image trace, but there's also one called trace down, which are basically carbon paper. This one is wax free and it's graphite. So, but there's different ones. This one comes in different colours. And this one you use by, what colour should we use? We use red. You just lay it between the image that you're wanting to trace and the paper. So it basically removes that initial drawing stage and the rubbing of the graphite down, so you're only having to draw it out once. Okay, so like the last time, I used quite a hard pencil to get the shapes down. What you can do with this is to like put in your darks and your light areas, so it just helps mark out when you're going into paint. So take this one off and see what we've got. So there you go. You've got the basic shapes in, marked out some of the lights and the shaded areas, so that when I want to go into paint, that's a bit blurry, isn't it? There you go. When I want to go into paint, it makes life a little bit easier for me because I've got the main areas marked out. And the next technique is exactly the same, however this time I'm going to put something on the back of the actual image. It only works if you're using like really cheap thin copier paper, and you can either just use that soft pencil that you've used before so that you've got some graphite that will transfer over, or you can do it with pastel. I would say if you're doing it with pastel, the pastel will smudge, so you wouldn't want to use pastel and then try and paint with watercolour over the top because it will just disappear. But if you're wanting to transfer the image and then go over with pencil or something like that, then it's more than good enough. And the good thing with that is, you can use a really light colour, so you might not be able to see the remnants of it when it comes to the final image. So I'm just going to use pencil again because I think it'll be better for you to be able to compare that and the original tracing process. But like I say, it doesn't really matter too much. So I'm going to do that now, and then we'll compare how the different processes are. Okay, so that's that one. Let's have a little look and then we'll compare the three. Probably should have used white bits of paper to put this up so we can see it a little bit clearer. No, we can't because the image is there. So, sorry, I should have used a fresh bit of paper. So this is just using the copier paper, colouring in the back and then tracing it straight over. So I'm going to get the three of them and we can compare. So this one was done with the traditional sort of tracing paper style, the sort of way that you would have been taught to do it at school, somewhere like that, where with the graphite on the back. And you've got the basic shapes. I think it's not as sharp an image as I've got with the other two, but I'll show you those in a second. So I think it's probably good for very basic shapes, but you wouldn't necessarily want to do it that way. I didn't really get much of the tone or anything like that across. When I used the image trace, that was the second one, which is the paid for version. I mean, hang on, let's see how much it costs. In this pack there is 5 pieces, and I don't know how old it is because it's not mine. I got it from my friend, £6.50. That will probably last ages because you can do multiple images with each piece, and it is much crisper, I would say. It's the crispest of all of them, but then it does look very artificial. Whereas this one, which is one with the graphite on the back, apologies for the blurriness because of the image underneath, but I think I've been able to get a bit more tone on it, and it does have more of a hand-drawn look to it. I've missed out half the cat here, but that's my fault. So I feel like with this one you could start working over the top and you wouldn't necessarily know that it had been traced by the time when you'd finished. So I hope you can see that despite the fact that I'm going to hold my hand up, I cannot draw realistic animals. That's not my forte. But I have managed to transfer some images that look like cats that I could have worked on top of. what I'm going to do is do a quick one on some pastel paper, and then I can do it with some pastel pencils, and hopefully we'll get something that proves that by using this technique you can draw. It's not going to be a complete image because it's not, and I'm doing it on a fairly neutral toned paper. Okay, so I've drawn it up onto this pastel paper. It's not my favourite paper, but the image itself has come out quite nicely. And you can see here, I mean, it does look like a cat, and almost looks like my cat. So we're going to get a bit of colour on. It does help. I think it helps to paint onto something a bit more neutral, because then I can put in my lights and my darks and almost leave the neutral bits. But let's see how it goes. I haven't done pastel pencils for a long time, probably coming up to 10 years, so we can experiment together. And so the pastel pencils I've got are the Stabilo Carbothellos. It's not a massive set, it's only 24 in here, so colour wise I'm just going to use what I've got. The good thing with pastel pencils is you can layer them, so if I work on it thin enough I can build the layers up and hopefully get the right colours. But I don't want to be spending weeks and weeks doing this drawing, because it is more of a demo piece. So let's have a go. So I just wanted to pop back on and talk about some apps that you can get for your phone. So there's quite a few options, but there's one called DaVinci, which basically, if you pop it on a tripod, you can use the photos on your phone and trace by looking through your phone onto the paper, and you get the same sort of effect. I don't use them because I find it a bit cumbersome, but it might be useful for people that haven't got printers maybe. So do check out those options as well if you haven't got a printer. So there we go. Is it a masterpiece? No. But does it look like a cat? Yes, it does. Does it look like that cat? Kind of. I mean, it looks a bit like that cat that was maybe eating a bee, but it does, kind of. I think it just needs a bit more on the way of whiskers. So that took me probably, I reckon, about half an hour-ish to do. I mean, we won't look at it too close. I'm not a fan of this paper. I never have liked the texture on it. That's why it's never been used. I've got quite a lot of it left. But I'm hoping it shows you that despite not being able to draw things realistically, and representationally, I think it looks good enough, maybe. So what this enabled me to do when I did the final drawing with the colour pencils, with the pastel pencils, it allowed me not to, I didn't have to think about the drawing because the drawing was already there, but it just allowed me to look at where the patterns and the colours, rather than having to worry about, does the drawing look like what it needs to look like? Does that make me less of an artist? Possibly. Does that mean I can't create, I'm not creating art? No, it doesn't, because I still created some art. Might not be the best art in the world, but that's because I don't draw cats. I'm not a cat person or an animal person, am I? So I hope you can see that despite me not being able to draw animals or cats, I've managed to create something that represents roughly the cat that I own. it's not my usual style of art, and it's not something that I would, you know, I'm not going to rush out to be drawing cats because that's just not my kind of art, but hopefully it's enough to show you that those techniques will give you the map you need, like the draft, really, that's not really the word, blueprint, like the blueprint for creating something. Whether you look like that or if it's just a pencil, you know, you then draw a line drawing and take away some of the details. There's so much you can do once you've traced it out, and you don't have to be trying to create a photograph, because I've got a photo. I could have just printed that out if I'd wanted to. So the purpose of today wasn't to be creating the best art I've ever going to create, because I wouldn't be drawing a cat, but hopefully you can see that by using some of these techniques you can take away that fear and the apprehension that comes with worrying about trying to create something that looks like something, because it will already be done for you, and then it's up to you to choose how you develop that. So thank you very much for watching. I hope I've given you a bit of a flavour for the 3 different tracing techniques that you can use, and yeah, give it a go. I think simpler images, you know, just try with something simple and then build up. But you could try a cat. Will you let me know if you do try and do something with this technique and how it goes? Have a lovely week, and I'll see you soon. Bye.